It's that time of the evening when we have our interview, and we've all been waiting for this. And a number of you had sent in your feedback asking for this man, and here he is. And when you realize, another group of people realize that he's coming on tonight, you're very excited and you're looking forward to learning from him. So am I. I've got a pen and paper, hopefully to learn from this man that is with us this evening. Our guest tonight needs a little bit of an introduction because he's not from around here. But what he is doing around here is absolutely important. It's absolutely impactful. It's something that we've all read about, people who are social entrepreneurs, people who are changing lives, not just in their own locales, but far and wide. He's one of these people. He's a life changer. He's a trailblazer, and he's here to talk about his life and what makes him tick, what motivates him, what gets him up in the morning, and why he does what he does. Good evening, sir, and welcome.
Good evening,
Mr. Peat. Karibu sana. This is Nathaniel Peat, and he's with us. You wear many hats, so yes. I'm not going to try and say, we typically say this is so and so, and yes. He is the such and such for such and such, yes. But I'm not going to try that. You will be able to tell us about that a little bit later on. But for starters, I would like us to start from the very beginning.
Right.
Way back, right? Tell us about your background. Where do you come from? Where did you grow up?
Well, I mean, if I'm going to change from the British accent, and I'm going to switch into
original, go back to basics.
Somehow I go back to Jamaica. so you flip it back, I go back to Jamaica.
Right.
All right, cool. So
authentic.
Authentic. Come from a Jamaican family. I grew up in the area of London, North London, which at the time when I was growing up, there's a lot of racial tension. A lot of racial tension between the police and also a lot of black people. There was a quite high-profile killing unjustly of a black woman, which started the 1985 riots in an area called Tottenham in London. And I was a child growing up around that, and I had this thing which was sewn into me by my parents, saying that don't ever let anybody tell you cannot achieve anything. As long as you set your mind to it, you can achieve it. No matter how hard the obstacle, you're able to really push through that. And that was ingrained into my mind from early. But I kind of got caught into the negative, let's say, approach to the authorities and also to my teachers.
Which was one of rebellion and conflict.
During the rebellious years, of my teens, I had, I believe, some racial issues in my school where my teachers, I felt, were prejudiced. And consequently, my level of mathematics, which was very good at primary school, began to drop in secondary school because I wasn't pushed at the level that my parents had pushed me and my former education had pushed me. And I didn't do too well. I actually failed my exams. In the GCSEs, which oftentimes students would get 10, I got 4. I passed English, in fact, because my English teacher said he would pay us £100. And everyone passed.
It was an incentive.
It was an incentive.
Right.
I didn't really start off good. I mean, I started to move with the wrong type of people. My friends were in gangs. And I came from a good family. But my dad said to me, unless you get into college to do your A-levels, I will kick you out of the house. So I went to one school, I didn't get into that school. I went to another one, I didn't get into that one. I went to one college, I couldn't get into that college. You need 5. I only got maths. Sorry, I didn't get maths, I only got English, and I got music, and I got history.
History, yeah.
And when I thought about it, I thought, let me try to ask my friends if they could help me to get into a college that they had been accepted in, right? And I got in.
So just before we get there,
yes,
can you tell us why? I mean, you're coming from a really good family, stable family. Yes. Of course, there's lots of discipline at home and lots of support. Yes. Like you said, you're doing quite well in primary school. Why then was there this need, or why did you act out in the way that you did when you were in your teens, when you were joining all these unsavory characters and doing all these things? What was the motivation? Why? What happened?
Well, part of the thing was I didn't feel that the education was helping me in the way that I felt as though it was boring. I wasn't engaged with it, and I wasn't being pushed. And as a result of that, I lost interest in what they were teaching me. And the glory of this this artificial type of culture was pulling me because my friends were involved in that. And But I had this really strong thing inside saying, you've got to do well. And I remember going to a college. I got into the college, and I wanted to do A-level physics. I had this ambition. I wanted to be a pilot.
Right.
And even though
But you didn't have that.
I didn't have any of the grades. I didn't have the opportunity for that.
Right.
And I queued up in the A-level physics line, and I went to the front. The man looked at my grades. He said, you don't have your GCSEs. You're going to have to repeat them. Something inside of me said, go back. I went back. I sat down for another hour. I got to the front. He said, you don't have the grades. Repeat your GCSEs. I got up again, and I thought about it, and I'm thinking, I've got to get onto this course. And I queued up again, and I got in this queue for this enrollment for A-level physics, and he rejected me again. The woman sitting next to him, she said to me, I've seen you come back 3 times. Anyone with that level of determination and drive, I'm sure will be able to do an A-level in physics. She put me onto the A-level physics course. Then she said, go to another A-level, go into that course. And by the time I'd actually got onto these courses and done these courses, I was on my way. And that's when my life then took a turn. Someone actually believed in me.
How old were you at this particular time?
It's about 16.
16, right. So if you could paint a picture for us about your worldview at that time, at 16 years old, how did you see the world? How did you see your own future, after school?
Well, at the time I saw there was a lot of people that were, that had capability, but didn't have the opportunity. So me growing up, I saw other black young children that were in that class that were having a huge potential, but they're not being pushed by the people or not having the ability to go further because maybe they're coming from a poor background. And this was my mindset as a 16-year-old. I thought it was quite unjust. And I thought it wasn't fair that we could have white pupils that are excelling and the families are strong and they're going to private school and they're excelling in society, but then where we are, we're disproportionate. We're not getting the jobs. We're not having the same type of opportunity. And this was at the back of my mind.
And this is a global problem.
This is a global problem. It's not just a problem in London.
Right.
To cut a long story short, I went on, I passed my A-levels, I went to university, I did a mechanical with aeronautical engineering degree, I did a master's degree in advanced systems engineering, advanced manufacturing engineering systems, and I began to then teach martial arts when I was at university.
About that, I remember by the way, anyone doing a Google search on this man, Nathaniel Peat, P-E-A-T, you would find a lot of content online about stuff that he's done and talks that he's given in different places. And one of those talks, I think the TEDx in Brunel University,
yes.
You were talking about learning by doing.
Yes.
And you were talking about something else that was quite profound, that your parents, instilled in you this belief that you can do anything you want to.
That's right.
What did those two things what role did they play in your transformation from this rebellious kid who was really just, if nothing else happened, was going to end up in the gangs and the drugs and in crime, to this, well-educated person, highly motivated person? What was the shift for you?
Well, I think everything starts in the mind. It's not knives and guns that kill people. It is mindsets. It's not. It is not the lack of finance or income that stops people. It's a mindset, because once you fix it in your mind that you're going to achieve it, nobody can take that from you.
So it's a mental limitation?
It's a mental limitation.
Right.
Not necessarily a physical limitation, or because you don't have the resources around you. Because once you have that mindset, you begin to elevate into a position where you're operating like an eagle. And you see, when you're an eagle, other eagles want to know who you are. And oftentimes when you meet those eagles, they're of influence and power. And so you're able then to expand your placing or your positioning. And your circle then changes. And I have a statement I always use, which is, if you associate with chickens, you're never going to fly with the eagles. And oftentimes people hang around the wrong type of people with the wrong type of mindset, which draws them down. So once you change your mindset, then the words which you speak out become powerful.
What was instrumental for you in changing your own mindset from this youth who's up to no good, and this is the direction your life is going, and then there's an about turn? What was it? What was it for you?
Well, you know...
Is there any critical moment?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was a young man that was killed, and so there was a youth murder. And because I knew this person, I knew that I could not be in the same realm. There's only one place you're going to end up, that is in the grave or in prison. And so the mindset shift that had been instilled in my mind from since I was young, that then birthed and says, you know, you can do it. Despite failing, you will be able to get onto this course. And that absolutely happened.
Okay. And then, so after all this, you mentioned that you started to teach other people martial arts, and anyone looking at your bio, anyone looking at your history can see you started getting involved in a lot of community stuff. You were kind of teaching people, empowering people about all these things. Why? I mean, the natural path that we've been taught, that we all see around us, is that when you make good, you keep doing that, you know, make your money. You actually qualified to be a pilot.
Yes, I am.
You made it, you know, your dream.
Yes.
And so what was that was a PPL, right?
I did my CPL, did my ATPL,
right?
Commercial training.
So with all that, I mean, why aren't we talking about Nathaniel Peat as a pilot for Virgin Airlines or British Airways or something like that? You know, with a nice nest egg somewhere. You know, living your life. You're from the Caribbean. You know, why shift into empowering people?
I always say this. Profit with purpose is the best thing. So if your money can do good for others, that's a good thing. It means they're going to be more loyal to your brand. It means that you're going to help them up. And you can't have purpose flying a jet across the Atlantic Ocean or another ocean. You can fulfill your dream, which is actually quite selfish. But I say the greatest significance you find in life is through service. It's not through the house you live in. It's not through the car you drive. It's not for how big your bank balance is. It's for the ability for you to impact somebody else's life. That is the greatest significance in life, when you can help somebody out.
And you've done it for a while now. I think over a decade. And
yes.
Have you lived these words? Does it make sense? Is it true that, you know, the greatest satisfaction you get from serving other people?
Absolutely. I mean, even in business, if you can meet the need of somebody, you're going to have good business. Example, you need your haircut. The barber's always going to have good business because you need that. Let's say that you are depressed and then you're going to need a counselor. That is good business. Or you need food. That is good business. And so you're providing a service for people's needs. I always say this concept: if you hang around people that are moaning a lot, they're complaining a lot, find a solution for what they're moaning about, and you'll have good business. And so it really encompasses this whole idea of purpose and passion. And when you fulfill your purpose, then you're really fulfilled in life. Everybody has this thing which tugs at them, that thing that they always wanted to do, or they always wanted to try, or somebody else does it and says, I had that idea. That thing is purpose. That's passion. And when you actually follow that passion and that purpose, the money comes. The circles come, the joy comes, everything comes. And there's hormones linked to this, because if I just go with a blank face and I smile at you now, I'm going to smile, I'm smiling, and I keep smiling, you're going to smile back.
It's contagious.
That's right. It releases hormones, dopamine, oxytocin. These are things which help you to feel better about your life and yourself. And as you do these things and help people up, it really assists you then in your own development and fulfilling that purpose and that passion.
All right. You mentioned business. Tell us as brief as you possibly can. I know this is going to be a very long list. Can you just outline what you do? What are you involved in? And what have you been involved in over the last few years? Well,
one of the main businesses which kind of got me on my entrepreneurial journey is called the Safety Box. You know, which is born out of the great need to proactively address all the growing concerns of antisocial behavior, violence, and low self-esteem with young people. And so we effectively work in prisons and in schools with alternative curriculum that helps them to rise and reduces levels of violence in prison. We have a program called the Aspire Higher program, in fact, that works in prison with violent offenders, BME, which is black and other ethnic minorities, offenders within institutes, and reducing the levels of violence with those offenders. My other business is called Genex Solar, and that is a solar company currently registered in 4 countries, and Kenya is one of those countries. This is about the tangible empowerment of people that are in poverty, and in particular are in energy poverty.
How?
So we do it in a number of different ways. Of course, through solar. Solar is a very good solution for people, but it is wider than that and it's broader than that. What we do is essentially teach people how to build and assemble solar. So it means I can go into a rural community, let's say, and teach a young person how to assemble a solar system, a solar lantern. And we teach young people. We've done this globally. We've done that in Jamaica. We've done it in the United Kingdom. You know, we're bringing a project here in Kenya, in a very rural area where we're going to be building an electronics lab with one of our partners, the Global Angels.
So these are people, you're teaching people who have no technical background whatsoever.
That's right. That's right. You see, it's about learning through doing.
Learning through doing.
It's about learning through doing. It means that somebody that is good with their hands can be good with a circuit. They can be good with fixing a solder and having the cabling going directly onto a PCB board, you know, assembling a unit that is taught. We can teach them how to put our products together, and that means that we've got somebody that can service the product. It means someone that can build it. It means that we're beginning manufacture here. It means we're beginning assembly here. So Africa has the ability to rise. For too long, there has been oppression here. For too long, there has been people that are in bondage because of the lack of money or finance or education. And so this is about giving them a skill set which will promote then work, jobs, opportunity, electrify their towns and their villages, and help to assist those who are connected to a grid, unfortunately, that sometimes doesn't give them the power they need. Right. And so we're assisting the development of solar here in Kenya with the company Genex Solar.
Okay. What else are you involved in?
I'm also the chairman of Jamaicans Inspired, which is the largest Jamaican diaspora organization in Europe at the moment. And it's a way to reconnect the second and the third generation back to their roots and their heritage. You find oftentimes, even in Kenya, whereby you get people educated, they do very well, and they move to the diaspora, they move into the USA.
The so-called brain drain.
That's right. They go out, and then the children now are connected only through grandparents. Then the next generation after that are disconnected, or they're not as connected. And that has an impact then on remittances, which has an impact on GDP, which has an impact on several other things. And so what we have done with Jamaicans Inspired, in fact, is to look to reconnect the third and the fourth generations back to Jamaica, their heritage. And further beyond that, the logo of Jamaicans Inspired actually is in the shape of Africa. So we recognize that we are the diaspora of Africa, the wider diaspora of Africa. And you know, so Jamaica love Africa as well. You know, you get the reggae musician down there, and them love Jamaica, them love Africa. And you know, Kenya loves reggae music as well, you know. And it's so fantastic to be able to reconnect back to the roots and engage them in social programs of helping you know, poor communities there, and they get involved in social activities. Real
quick, tell me about the Ernst & Young situation, the foundation.
Yeah, so a while ago, Ernst & Young, known as EY, I'm now a patron of EY Foundation, but I was one of the co-founding trustees of the EY Foundation, which was to try to empower young people in Britain. There's a number of youth that are unemployed in the UK, and we aim to, as a charitable organization of EY, to get young people that are in care or givers of care that are underprivileged, that don't have the grades, that have not had the opportunity to have work opportunities. So we put them on a program, two programs, Our Futures and Smart Futures, where they do a CMI leadership qualification. They're mentored over a period of 10 months, 6 months, and then we give them access to work, so they will get a job at the end of that. And this is for the young people that are unemployed, that are not in education or employment, and have been disadvantaged through either family or situation, and that's to get them back into a job. And so I've been doing that with EY Foundation, and now as a patron, it's really good to speak about the organization and what it's doing. They operate in 18 locations in the United Kingdom, and they're having a tangible impact on people's lives.
Now, viewers, you've been listening to Nathaniel Peat, and you've gotten a sense of the power, right? This segment of the news is called The Engine Behind the Power. You've gotten a sense of the power. The biggest question a lot of people are asking is why? Why are you doing this? Why are you, you know, spending a lot of your time, a lot of your energy involved in all these things? Why Africa? You know, they say charity begins at home. You know, like why Africa?
Why is this not my home?
Good question.
That's the question. Why is this not my home?
But why? Why do you do this? Why? What gets you up in the morning? Why do you? Why do you do this?
Well, my parents gave me a lot, and I owe a lot to my mum and dad. I owe a lot to the faith which they instilled in me, the belief system in my Father in heaven that helps me that lifts me up, that gives me that motivation, that impossible is nothing when I have that faith. I owe it now to my son, and so his name is Micah Peat, and for him now, because there are not many black role models in our society that our black young boys
and
see,
positive
ones.
Yes.
It is important that I leave a legacy for him to step into. Beyond this, before I had Micah, it was to empower and to ensure that young people have a positive role model. Because for me, when I grew up, I could have easily have become one of those men in prison. I could have easily have been somebody that ended up in the grave. But it was because of strong black men that I had around me that helped me. And so for me now, it is to be an ambassador that can change the narrative that often the perception of black young men within the diaspora regions is negative. It is to change that. It is to change the narrative, and it's to assist people out of the position of not having the same as others. And I have a statement which I always use often, which is aspire to inspire before you expire. And so I'm getting as high as I can so I can inspire others before I run out of energy. So as you do that when you're young, then it means that you can sit down when you're older. If you have the energy as a youth doing and sowing the seeds, it means you can reap the crops later on. And you're not going to have the same work because you're not having to go through the weeds, but you can plant and get the harvest.
You know, I like that. It reminds me of a quote by Dr. Miles Monroe, the late. He says he wanted to die empty after he's done everything that was in him to do. And I appreciate that. Real quick, my producer tells me we're entirely out of time, which is surprising. This thing, it seems like we just started. But this is your camera. I want you to, this is your camera, and I want you, whatever else we haven't covered, which is, I know, a lot, but I want you to find something that is in your heart for the youth of Kenya, for the youth of Africa, for anyone who's watching you today. This is your camera. Speak from your heart.
The only limitation that you find in this world is in your mind. If you can position your thought process in a positive way, thinking and speaking only positive messages back into yourself every day. I can, I will. Getting rid of the things that people have told you that you cannot. Even the society that has told you that you cannot, you can. And you start speaking that. There's a proverb which is written in the Bible. It says, the power of life and death is in your tongue. So what I say to you is only speak life into your life. Only speak life, don't speak death. Only speak I can, don't speak I cannot. Only speak that you will. Only speak that you choose to be excellent and you choose to be great. Because you are great. Your story is important. Your life matters. And the only way you're going to get to your dreams is if you put and exercise discipline, because discipline is the bridge between the goal and the accomplishment. Put discipline in your mind. Focus your mind like a magnifying in front of the glass. You get the magnifying glass now, and then you've got the glass piece beneath it, and you put the sun right the way through it, you're going to burn through the paper. So focus your mind like a magnifying glass. You will achieve it. The only limitation in this life is yourself.
Wow, I couldn't have said it better myself. But I want to emphasize one thing. Aspire to inspire before you expire. That's wonderful. Good people, I certainly hope you've learnt a lot from this interview. I certainly hope you've kind of caught something that will put a fire in your belly and, you know, be the wind in your sail as you go out and pursue whatever it is that God has put in your heart and in your mind to do. Go for it. From all of us here at Engine Behind the Power, we say, what's that again? Say it again. Aspire.
Aspire to inspire before you expire.
Fantastic. I couldn't have said it better myself. We take a short break. We'll be right back with more. Please stay with us.